Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to this IEP meeting for Diego Flores. I am Dr. Asia Crenshaw, and I am the assistant principal here at J.E. Moss Elementary School, and I will be leading the IEP meeting to make sure everything is going smoothly. So first, I want to start off with introductions, starting to my left.
Hi, I'm Amanda Gold, and I'm Diego's speech-language pathologist.
Hi, I'm Liz Mason, and I am Diego's special education paraprofessional. I will also be note-taking during this meeting.
And I'm Ms. Skimmelhorn, his general education teacher.
And I'm Jorge Flores, Diego's father, so thank you very much for taking care of Diego, and I appreciate all the work you've done to put this together today.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Flores. So we're going to start this meeting off with our parental consents and your rights as a parent.
Okay.
So I just highlighted a few key points with your parental consents. So the first one is your procedure safeguard notice. So the school must provide you with a written explanation of your rights under both the Individual Disability Education Act and your state laws. Second one is parental participation. You have a legal right as a parent to participate in meetings about your child's education. Access to educational records. You have the right to see your child's educational records and have the right for an explanation. Confidentiality of information. The school must protect your child's confidentiality. Informed consent or parental consent. Before evaluating your child or providing special services for the first time, the school must inform you on what's involved. Prior written notice. The school must give you written notice before it changes your child's special education experience. Understandable language. It must use language that is understandable to the general public. Independent educational evaluation. If you disagree with the school's evaluation results, you have a right to get an IE. Stay put rights. If you disagree with the proposed change to your child's IEP service or placement, you as a parent have the right to keep your child's current IEP in place.
Okay.
And the last one is dispute resolution options. You have the right to disagree with the schools about what's best for your child.
Okay.
And finally, you can file a complaint with your state if your school is violating ideas.
Okay.
Do you have any questions about that?
No, I think you said I'll get this in writing.
Yes, you
So
can get it in writing. It's
okay.
right here.
Great.
So here's a packet for you. You can just go over that and look over it.
You can look over it with your wife and come back to any of us with any questions or contact any of us.
Okay. Good.
All right, Mr. Flores, I need to confirm that your son's address is 419 Reeves Road in Antioch,
That's right. Yeah.
Tennessee, and the zip code is 37013.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And I also need to confirm his medical information. So he had a cyst removed from under his tongue, is that correct?
Yes, he did.
And he is diagnosed with pervasive developmental disorder not otherwise specified.
Yes.
And he is prescribed Strattera 10 milligrams once per day,
Yes.
and that regulates his ability to attend and control inappropriate classroom behaviors.
Yes.
Pretty much his ADHD. Okay. And so Diego is a sweet kid, and his strengths are things like social participation in, like he invites his peers to join in conversation and activities and engages on one-on-one interactions like meeting you right now, and as well as group interactions like all of us talking. And so he also has strengths in isolated word reading and sentence reading, and he has intelligible speech and age-appropriate single-word vocabulary knowledge. Does all of that make sense to you?
What is single word?
That would just be one word, like
Okay.
the word dog or
Gotcha.
cat.
So one word at a time.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep. So, Mr. Flores, do you have any concerns about Diego at this time?
I wanted to ask how everybody thinks he's been doing since he started with the ADHD medication. Has that helped his behavior in the school environment?
So as his classroom teacher, I've been able to witness that, and I think there has been a slight change in his attention, but it hasn't really affected his test scores overall. It hasn't really made a difference there. But he has seemed more attentive and not like just looking around the room as much during presentations and while I'm teaching and when other students are talking to him.
Okay.
Yeah, so we found it has been beneficial for him.
Yeah.
Are there any other behaviors that that I should know about that in school in terms of just acting out or anything?
Well, some things that he struggles with in the general curriculum, some things that just kind of impact him are, he does have difficulty with social reciprocity and social behaviors. So for example, for social reciprocity, when he's having a conversation with other children, he doesn't really ask questions back. Like, he will answer the questions they ask him, and he doesn't really make requests. So if he needs to go to the bathroom, sometimes he gets a little nervous to ask me. He also struggles with some social behaviors like personal space. Sometimes kids don't know how to handle that. He just is really loving and sweet, so he'll get really close and want to really listen to them. And it sometimes makes kids uncomfortable, but that's something that comes with his PDD. And then it was also noted that he has difficulty centered on letter and sound correspondences, so that's putting like the sound with the letters, so he has trouble like forming words, and listening comprehension. And then some other places he struggled are math, social studies, and science. And these areas could all impact his ability to participate in our general curriculum.
Okay.
Okay, so now I'm going to talk about some of our goals that we will be addressing. I won't talk about all the goals that we have, but I'm going to talk about these more salient ones that I will go in more depth about. So we have long-term goals, which are goals that we want that span the entire school year. So it won't just be a few months that he will gain these skills, but it'll be over the course of the school year. And then we have short-term goals that are kind of benchmarks that will hit throughout the school year. So things that he'll hit sooner. So I'll start out with our first long-term goal. The student will demonstrate improved grammar and syntax at the sentence level using noun-verb agreement with 80% accuracy as measured by the clinician. And syntax just means grammar.
And 80% is 8 out of 10 times where you're asking him to do something.
Yes, and 80% is a number that evidence has shown shows the mastery of the skill. So it takes account if the kid has a bad day and scores lower, or has a really good day and gets 100%. So that's what evidence says is what we should use for these goals.
Okay.
Now the short-term goal under that long-term goal is, given visual and verbal cues, the client will correctly identify word order, subject, verb, object, in 5 to 6 word sentences during a structured activity with 80% accuracy as measured by clinician data. Any questions about that?
I don't think so.
Okay. The next long-term goal we're going to talk about is the student will demonstrate age-appropriate pragmatic skills during conversations with peers with 80% accuracy as measured by teacher, speech-language pathologist, and paraprofessional data collection and observations. And the short-term goal under that is, given an oral or gestural cue, the client will respect personal space during conversations with peers in various settings by stepping back, saying, "Excuse me," and waiting for the listener to acknowledge him with 80% accuracy as measured by the teacher, the speech-language pathologist, and the paraprofessional data collection and observation. Any question about those in particular?
I don't think so.
Okay.
We're going to discuss some of the things we're going to do in the classroom for everyone that will accommodate his needs, but as well help everyone else learn. All the different subjects these are going to be in are reading, English, spelling, writing, math, social studies, and science. So some things we're going to do for assignments, we're going to pair written instructions with oral instructions to help understand, and we're also going to give directions in simple, small steps. For pacing, we are going to allow for a drawing and art-related breaks after finishing tasks for students to get them recentered and refocused. Testing, we will do oral testing and use some manipulatives. So oral testing is reading the tests out loud. Presentation of subject matter, we will present subject matter visually and tactilely. And then for our general classroom environment, the seating will be planned ahead of time, and we will attempt to seat him away from windows and possibly away from distraction areas. So not sitting by the cubbies where everyone gets their coats and then their book bag and stuff.
What does tactilely mean with visual?
So visual is with your vision, what you can see. So we'll present it like information on the board, and tactile, what you can feel, what you can kind of touch. So maybe we'll present something on the board, but we'll also have him something to hold, to look at.
Okay. Good.
And so the accommodations just for Diego are a first then board, so a board that tells him first you do your homework, then you can have recess. A visual schedule, so like math is first in the morning, then science, then reading, so he knows how his day will go.
He doesn't like to have quick changes in his schedule.
Yes,
That'll be good.
so that'll help, he can anticipate those changes.
Okay.
And then a modified picture exchange system, so that's where Diego would hand us a picture of something that he wants, like a drink or a restroom break, and then we allow him to do that or give him a drink. He will also receive additional time for certain assignments and graphic organizers when they're talking about things to kind of help relate the different subject matters.
Okay.
Do you have any questions about those accommodations?
No.
Okay.
There is a state mandated test that the state of Tennessee mandates that children in kindergarten take, which is called the MTSS Universal Screener. So this assessment is a periodic assessment to identify each child's specific needs in reading, writing, and math, so they can get an appropriate level of instruction.
Okay.
So some accommodations will be extended times, breaks, or instructions, and oral testing.
Okay.
All right, so the services that Diego will receive, he will be pulled out of his classroom twice per week for 30-minute sessions, so a total of 1 hour per week, and he will attend speech with Miss Amanda in the speech room. Also, every day of the week, I will be with him for 2 hours a day in his regular education classroom, and that equals 10 hours per week. The regular class, Diego, of course, this is kind of reiterating what I've just told you. He will not participate in regular class for 30 minutes twice per week for speech. And he will be able to participate in all extracurricular and non-academic activities. And his LEA school is the J.E. Moss Elementary School. He also requires no special transportation.
As we're beginning to conclude our meeting, Mr. Flores, do you have any additional questions you would like to ask?
Yes, I do. I have a couple of questions. One is measurement of the goals. We talked a little bit about that. Can you tell me how that takes place? How does that work?
Yes, so during my sessions with Diego, I will be taking data on the goals in that environment. But in addition to that, his teacher in his general education class will also be taking data, especially about his interactions with peers and social skills, something that he will not have in an individual meeting. So we'll be able to measure data in the different environments. And so his paraprofessional will also be taking data. So that way we'll be able to take that all in respect to the different environments and the different things around him and be able to measure that data.
And if he's achieving those goals based on that measurement, then we could talk about next steps with.
Yeah, if he progresses with his goals much faster than we thought, we will present that data to you and we will reevaluate and we can hold another IEP meeting to make new goals and to readjust.
Great. And then I had a question. You talked about some of the boards, the picture boards and the first then board. Is that something I can bring home so that me and Mom can use that with Diego? I think that would be great.
Yes, that would be wonderful. We'd love for you to work on those things at home. So we can send you his board home. We'll
Mhm.
have a copy at school and a copy at home so that you can continue working on those goals at home.
Okay. Maybe we could get the other kids to help make some boards.
That would be good, yes.
Make him feel more included in everything.
Yeah.
And then just my last question to you, Ms. Skimmerhorn, is how do you think Diego's going to do with all this? And how do you think his year will go with these goals?
Yeah, so with all the assessment we did and just with meeting with each other, we do feel like we set really good goals for him that will impact him academically and socially, like for the better. He has shown that he has made improvement before when goals have been addressed to him. So we are hoping that these will be really beneficial to him, and if not, as we discussed, as Aisha discussed, and Amanda, that we will be able to reconvene if necessary.
And these accommodations should help him increase his performance in the general education classroom.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so as for concluding the meeting, I have this paper I'm gonna sign around. I want you all to sign stating that you participated in this IEP meeting.
That's bad.
Okay, and this concludes our meeting. Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Flores, for coming and participating, and thank you all for coming, and have a nice day.
Thank you.